I was 34 the morning I walked into divorce court ready to lose everything. My husband wanted the house. He wanted my company. He wanted both of our kids. And he wanted the whole town to watch him take them. His mother had spent 2 full months telling people at church that I was cold, greedy, and impossible to live with. Most of them believed her. I had stopped trying to fix it. Then, right before the courtroom doors opened, my mother leaned close and whispered 2 words that turned my blood cold. 3 months after I signed it all away, every Holloway in that room wished they had read the papers first. Welcome back to Twisted Family Revenge Stories. This is the kind of story people think is quiet until it cuts. No screaming. No wild chase. Just a woman who knew how to keep records, and let the wrong people win. If you came for that kind of story, stay with me. It took me years to be ready to tell this one. I built my business at a folding card table in a garage. That part matters. 12 years ago, before Gavin, before the kids, before any of this broke open, I had one client and a used calculator with a sticky 7 key. I did books for a feed store first. Then a diner. Then a dentist. One by one, small business owners around Marysville, Ohio, carried in shoe boxes full of receipts and that same scared look people get when they think the IRS might be coming. By the time I turned 30, Hale Bookkeeping had a real office downtown. 2 desks. A glass door. My name on it. I still kept the first brass key on my ring. The edges had gone smooth from years of opening up before sunrise. People in town thought they knew what that meant. They thought I had money. Real money. They were wrong. They saw the office, the steady work, my late father's name, and they filled in the blanks however they wanted. What they never saw were the margins. How thin they were. How many nights I stayed late fixing other people's mistakes for free because I couldn't stand seeing a family lose a business over one stupid math error. That was my life. People leaned on me. I was the one who caught fraud before the bank did. The one who quietly helped cover payroll when a client was short. The wife who kept the house running, the books clean, the kids fed, the bills paid, and never once asked who was carrying me. I was good at holding weight. Too good. So good, no one ever stopped to ask what it cost me. Not even me. I used to think that was strength. It took divorce court to show me it was also the reason they thought they could break me. My husband, Gavin Holloway, had charm the way some men have a sales pitch. Warm smile. Easy laugh. Strong handshake. He could make you feel like the only person in the room. Then forget your name by the time he hit the parking lot. I married him at 24. He sold industrial equipment across 3 counties. For a long time, we were fine. Maybe not deeply happy. But fine. Or close enough that I told myself it counted. Things changed 3 years before the divorce. He got pulled into some side business with a man who talked big and delivered smoke. Gavin put in our savings. Then borrowed money on top of it. When it all collapsed, he sat at our kitchen table white as chalk. I can still see his face. He said, "Ratch. I messed up." That was all. No plan. No fix. Just that. So I did what I always did. I fixed it. Quietly. Cleanly. I moved money from safe places, covered what had to be covered, and made the whole mess disappear before it could touch his credit or his pride. I thought I was protecting my husband. I didn't ask for praise. I didn't even ask for thanks. But something changed in him after that. Not all at once. Slowly. Like heat building behind a wall. He started making jokes. The kind people laugh at because they're not sure if they're jokes or not. You always have to fix everything, huh? Must be nice being the smart one. I laughed them off. I touched his hand. I told myself he was embarrassed and it would pass. It didn't pass. A man like Gavin could forgive a lot. But being rescued by his wife? That sat in him like poison. He started acting like my ability to solve a problem was some kind of control. Like every spreadsheet was a leash. He never thanked me for saving him. He just started keeping score. I didn't know it then, but that was the night the marriage ended. The affair came later. The betrayal came later. The divorce papers came later. But that night, at the kitchen table, something in him changed. And I spent the next 3 years trying to balance a marriage that had already gone bankrupt. The signs were small at first. That's how they get you. Late meetings that ran later. A cologne I never bought. His phone always face down on the nightstand. Buzzing at odd hours like something trapped and angry. I need to be clear about one thing. I did not sneak through his phone. I did not plant devices. I did not read his messages in the dark. My whole career had been built around other people's private messes. I knew the line between noticing and spying. So I noticed. That was all. The way you notice a leak because of the stain on the ceiling, long before you find the broken pipe. And one name kept showing up. Vanessa Burke. She was a real estate agent. Pretty. Polished. A little too smooth. She had sold us our house on Plum Street years before. After that, she kept turning up. Same gas station. Same coffee shop. Same school fundraiser. Same charity walk. Too many times to feel random. I told myself I was imagining it. Then one afternoon, Gavin was in the shower, and his phone lit up on the kitchen counter. I wasn't trying to look. I just happened to see the screen flash before it went dark. One line. That was all it took. Not "I miss you." Not "I love you." It said, find out what her dad actually left her. I froze. My hand was still on a dish towel. Water was dripping onto the floor. And all I could do was stare. Not because it was romantic. Because it wasn't. That one cold sentence told me more than a love note ever could. This was no longer about feelings. It was about math. About assets. About what my father left me. About what they thought they could take. I stood in my own kitchen and understood something terrible. Whatever Gavin and Vanessa were doing, it had stopped being about a marriage a long time ago. It was a project now. And somewhere, the two of them were doing numbers on my life while I was still pretending this could be saved. They had already started counting. So had I. Here's what I stood to lose. The house on Plum Street. The place where my daughter Lily took her first steps. The place where my son Ben lost his first tooth. My company. The only thing I had ever built by myself from the ground up. My place in town. And if you've never lived in a small town, let me explain something. The woman bagging your groceries may also sit 2 pews behind you every Sunday. News doesn't travel there. It settles in. But more than any of that, I stood to lose my children's trust. Lily was 9. Ben was 7. They still believed their parents were a team. That was the real ledger. Not money. Not property. That. And there was one more thing nobody knew yet. 5 years before all this, when my father Walter died, he left me money. Not millions. But enough to matter. About $180,000. And a share of a small piece of land outside town. My father had been a bookkeeper too. Before me. He had one rule he said so often I could hear it in my sleep. Money has a memory. If you let it, keep one. He meant this. Keep what is yours separate. Write down where it came from. Never let your money blur into someone else's. When his money came to me, I followed that rule exactly. One account. My name only. Never touched by marital money. Every deposit documented. Every date recorded. In the same green ledger my father handed me when I was 16. His handwriting still in the margins. Blocky. Plain. strong. One word stood beside those entries. Separate. Another line under it said, keep traceable. I had followed that rule my whole adult life without ever needing it. I didn't know yet it was about to save me. Gavin never sat me down and said he was leaving. He had a lawyer do it. The papers were delivered to my office on a Tuesday morning. Right downtown. In front of everyone. The process server walked in like he was bringing flowers. I shut my office door and read every page at my desk. He wasn't just asking for a divorce. He wanted the house. He wanted an equal share of Hale bookkeeping. He wanted primary custody of Lily and Ben. And the lawyer on the letterhead was Troy Holloway. Gavin's cousin. That told me all I needed to know. This was family strategy. Not heartbreak. The letter demanded my business be formally valued as a marital asset. I sat very still. The room felt crooked. Then I did what I always do when numbers stop making sense. I called a professional. Maya Okafor came recommended by a business owner I had helped years before. She had a calm voice. Dry humor. No wasted words. I liked her in under 5 minutes. I laid it all out. The affair. The house. The company. The kids. She listened. Took notes. Didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she asked one question. Quiet. Sharp. Rachel, did you ever put your inheritance into a joint account? The way she asked it made my stomach sink. Because I knew she already understood the whole game. Everything they wanted hung on that answer. I swallowed. Never, I said. Not once. My father felt very close in that moment. The account had always stayed in my name only. The business was a single-member LLC I had formed before Gavin and I were even serious. Its books were separate. Its taxes were separate. Its ownership was clean. 12 straight years. Maya set down her pen. Then they're chasing ghosts, she said. I didn't breathe. She went on. Under Ohio law, inheritance kept separate and traceable stays yours. Same with a business you owned before marriage, if you can prove it stayed separate. But here's the part you won't like. I already knew I wasn't going to like it. The law being on your side doesn't make the fight easy, she said. You have to prove every dollar. Every path. Every date. Their whole plan is to hope you got sloppy somewhere. And while they hope that, they'll make you bleed. Legal fees? I asked. She nodded. Delay. Pressure. Noise. And the town. At that, I gave a short, tired laugh. Maya did not. The town isn't a courtroom, she said. The law can't make people fair. That was the truth. The papers were clean. My father had made sure of that years before. The law wasn't the scary part. The scary part was Sylvia Holloway. My mother-in-law never yelled. She didn't need to. She was 64, silver-haired, always baking pies for funerals, always remembering birthdays, always saying the right thing in the church kitchen. And women like that can destroy you without ever raising their voice. I heard what she was saying about me from other people. Always second-hand. That's how poison spreads best. She told people I was cold. That I kept Gavin on an allowance. That I had hidden money for years. That I treated my husband like an employee. She never said the word affair. She didn't need to. She just left enough space for everyone else to fill in the cruel part. Within 2 weeks, conversation stopped when I walked into rooms. A woman whose taxes I had done almost for free crossed the street instead of speaking to me. And Vanessa? She stopped hiding. She stood with Gavin at a high school football game. Then at the hardware store. Then at a restaurant where she laughed too loud 2 tables away and rested her hand on his arm like she was already practicing for the role. She was acting like the next Mrs. Holloway before the divorce was even filed. And I cannot explain how lonely that felt. I had spent 12 years being the woman people trusted with their mess, their money, their secrets. Now I was the one being robbed, and no one could see it. Because nobody tells you this part. When a woman is known for being competent, people are the last to believe she can be taken advantage of. They look at the organized one. The calm one. The woman with the neat books and straight spine. And they think, she'll be fine. So they don't ask what's happening. They ask what she must have done. Then Gavin did the one thing I still have trouble forgiving. He used the kids. He had never been the parent who knew the pediatrician's number. He did not know which child hated crusts. But suddenly, he was fun dad. A new bike for Ben. Big promises for Lily. One day he even told her maybe she'd have a horse soon. A horse. He let them start dreaming about some bigger, better life. He let them think I was the reason it wasn't happening yet. I found out when Lily came home one afternoon quiet as a shadow and asked, in that careful little voice kids use when they've heard something they were never meant to hear. Mom, are we poor now? I went down to my knees right there on the kitchen floor so we were eye to eye. I did not cry. I did not say one bad word about their father. I had decided early that no matter what Gavin did, my children would never hear me tear down half of themselves. But I made a promise to myself on that linoleum. Then I called Maya that night. How do I protect them? I asked. The next morning, we requested a guardian ad litem. A neutral person. Someone whose only job was to look at what was actually best for the kids. After that, I kept everything steady. Same school. Same bedtime. Same soccer. Same spaghetti on Wednesdays. Same lamp on in the hall at night. Maya told me, stability is evidence. While Gavin offered ponies, I offered routine. It didn't feel powerful. It felt like standing in a river and holding two small hands while somebody on the bank kept tossing shiny things into the water. That night, Lily asked again, "We're okay, right?" I tucked the blanket under her chin. "We're okay," I said. And for the first time, I made myself try to believe it. The county fall fundraiser came 2 weeks later. Everyone in town packed into the church basement. Folding tables. Casseroles. Paper plates. I almost stayed home. But in a small town, hiding looks too much like guilt. So I went. I wore a plain navy dress. Held my coffee. Smiled when spoken to. And all night I felt it. That little sting on the back of your neck that tells you people are talking about you while standing 10 feet away. Sylvia sat at the center table like a queen. Gavin beside her. Vanessa 2 seats down. Bold as brass. I was pouring coffee when someone asked, loud enough for me to hear, how poor Rachel was holding up. Sylvia smiled. Sweet as frosting. "Oh, she'll land on her feet," she said. "Though at this rate, she may be lucky just to keep her maiden name." They laughed. Not mean, sharp laughter. Worse. Comfortable laughter. The easy kind people use when they think the joke is fair. I set my coffee cup down without making a sound. I did not turn around. I did not give them the shaking voice or the red face or the tears they were hoping for. I picked up my purse. Walked out to the parking lot. Got in my car. And sat in the dark. I didn't cry. That surprised me. Instead, I reached into my purse, found a pen and an old receipt, and started making a list. I'm a bookkeeper. When my life falls apart, I audit it. That list changed everything. I pulled our mortgage records. The joint ones. Records I had every legal right to see. And there it was. 4 months before filing for divorce, Gavin had refinanced the house on Plum Street and taken out a home equity line of credit. He had drained almost every dollar of equity we had built over 12 years. The money did not go into savings. It went into a property flipping venture. And Vanessa Burke was listed as a partner. It got worse. To fund that venture, Gavin had signed a personal guarantee on the business loan. His own name on the hook. All of it. I sat in my office under the green lamp and felt something I had not felt in months. Not rage. Clarity. Weeks earlier, when I first saw the refinance go through, I had called the bank trying to stop it. I couldn't. It was a joint mortgage. That meant it took 2 signatures to freeze. Only one to borrow against. There was nothing I could do but document it. So I did. Every statement. Every transfer. Every date. Exactly the way my father taught me. As the picture came into focus, I saw something Gavin clearly did not. He thought he was stacking up assets. House. Business. Future. But what he was really stacking up was debt. And he was fighting to win all of it. Troy earned his fee the old-fashioned way. He made my life expensive. Motion after motion. Demand after demand. Another business valuation. Then another. Temporary spousal support. Letters that painted Gavin as the wounded husband and me as the rich, hidden money wife. Every letter cost money to answer. Every answer cost time I wanted to spend on my children. There were nights I sat at my kitchen table at 2 a.m, green ledger open, my father's handwriting looking back at me, and wondered if being right was worth this much. Maya kept me steady. We don't fight loud, she told me. We fight on paper. Loud loses. Paper wins. I held on to that like a railing. I kept working. Kept the office open. Kept Lily's braids even before school. Kept Ben's sneakers by the door. Even when my hands wanted to shake. The tiredness I felt was the kind nobody sees. Not dramatic. Not loud. The kind that lives behind a calm face. The next morning, I drove to the bank. I needed proof. Not a feeling. Not a story. Proof. I asked for a certified deposit history on my inheritance account. The official one. Bank seal. Every deposit. Every date. Everything showing exactly where the money came from and that no marital funds had ever touched it. Then I drove to my father's old attorney. He still had Walter Hale's probate file in a metal cabinet. I got certified copies of the will. The estate distribution papers. The deed to the small parcel of land. Back at my office, I pulled my LLC formation documents. Filed before my marriage. Then 12 years of separate business tax returns. I put it all into one folder. It was thick enough to hurt someone with. Then I drove to my mother's house and laid it on her kitchen table. My mother, June, was 63 and sharp enough to cut glass. She looked at the folder. Then at me. I opened the green ledger beside it and turned to the page where my father had written the dates of those same deposits years earlier. Separate. Keep traceable. The bank records matched his handwriting exactly. Every line. Every number. The thread ran from his hand to mine without one break. I had it all. Every signature. Every stamp. Every date. Everything needed to prove that the inheritance and the company had never, not once, become anyone's but mine. My mother rested her hand on the folder and stayed quiet a long moment. Then she said something I did not fully understand yet. Sometimes, she said softly, the smartest thing you can do is let people carry the load they fought so hard to win. I thought she meant comfort. She meant strategy. I just didn't hear it yet. A few days later, I ran into Vanessa in the grocery store parking lot. We both reached for carts at the same time. There was no clean way around it. Up close, without the hair and makeup and public smile, she looked older than 46. Tired around the eyes. For 1 second, neither of us performed. She looked at me and said, "You think I'm the villain?" I didn't answer. She loaded her bag slowly. Then, almost like she was talking to herself, she said, "You don't know what it's like to be my age with nothing." Twice I walked away with nothing. And for one breath, I saw her separate. A woman who had bet on 2 marriages and lost both. A woman who had watched settlements vanish. A woman who had decided that next time she would tie herself to an asset, not a man. I understood the fear. I had seen that fear in clients before. The panic of someone running the numbers on old age and coming up short. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Then she straightened. The softness disappeared. "The house is basically mine already," she said with a small, cold smile. "Gavin says the curtains can go. I never liked them anyway." That did it. She had stood in my home. The house where my daughter learned to walk. And she had picked which things to throw away. Any sympathy I had died right there. I didn't hate her. Hate takes too much fuel. But I stopped excusing her. People can be scared and still choose cruelty. Vanessa had chosen it with both eyes open. That weekend, my mother told me a story I had never heard. We were doing dishes. The kids were asleep in the next room. She handed me a plate and said, "Your father wasn't always this careful. When my father was young, before he met her, he had gone into business with a friend he trusted like a brother. No written agreement. No clean records. One shared account. Because that's what trust looked like to him back then. The friend emptied it. Took everything. And because nothing had been written down, my father could not prove what was his. He didn't just lose money," my mother said. "He lost proof. It took him years to recover. After that, he documented everything. That green ledger wasn't a habit. It was a scar." I dried the plate slowly. All my life, I thought his rule was about being organized. It wasn't. It was about survival. My mother dried her hands and looked at me with the same level stare my father used to have. "He used to say one more thing," she said. "The loudest person at the table usually owns the least." I laughed. A real laugh. The first one in weeks. Because I had spent 2 months being outshouted by people who were betting everything. And I was beginning to think my father had been right about them too. A week before the hearing, Maya laid the whole case out for me. "They have 3 legs to stand on," she said. "They want your company called marital. They want your inheritance called mixed. And they want the house and other property divided." She tapped the desk. "2 of those legs are weak. Your documents kill them. The company is separate. The inheritance is traceable. But the house, the cars, the furniture? Those are marital." I nodded. "So we fight for the house?" Maya tilted her head. "We can." I thought about that. Then I asked the question that had been building in me since I saw the refinance records. "What is the house actually worth now?" She got quiet. Pulled the appraisal. The mortgage payoff. The line of credit. The other debt. She ran the numbers in front of me. I watched her face change before I even looked down. The equity was gone. Not low. Gone. And then some. Once everything was counted, the house on Plum Street was worth less than the debt tied to it. I leaned back slowly. My mother's words came back to me. Let them carry the load they fought so hard to win. And suddenly I understood. The prize wasn't a prize. It was a trap. And they had built it themselves. I made Maya explain it 3 times. I don't trust numbers that sound too good. But it held every time. The house was underwater. Whoever got it would get the mortgage, the credit line, and the pain. Then there was my company. Gavin wanted half of Hale bookkeeping as if it were a machine or a building. Maya looked at me and said, "Rachel, your business is you. Your clients trust you. Take you out, and what's left? A lease and some file cabinets." Even if a judge somehow called the business marital, which was already unlikely, half of it without me was worth next to nothing. My clients would walk out with me. the whole thing finally became clear. They had spent months, legal fees, and half the town's goodwill trying to take three things from me: the house, the company, the children. But the house was debt. The company was worthless without the woman they were trying to strip it from. And the guardian ad litem was already seeing that Gavin barely knew the kids' routines. Everything he fought to win would sink him. And the strangest part? I had not set a trap. I had only kept records. The town still didn't know any of this. In those last weeks, the gossip got worse. Sylvia's version of me hardened into truth because she said it often enough. I was the cold wife. The greedy wife. The one who pushed a good man too far. A friend from high school stopped returning my calls. That one hurt. I could have gone into that church basement with the refinance documents and the personal guarantee and shown everybody exactly what Gavin had done. Maya told me not to. Save the truth for the room where truth matters, she said. If you explain yourself to gossip, you've already lost. So I stayed quiet. Not because I was weak. Because silence chosen on purpose is different from silence forced on you. Still, I almost broke when Lily climbed onto the couch one afternoon and told me a girl at school said we were going to lose our house and live in the car. I held her close. I did not promise her Plum Street. By then, I already knew I was going to let that house go. Instead, I looked straight into her eyes and made a different promise. We will always have a home, I said. I built one once from nothing. I can do it again. She believed me. Now I had to become the kind of woman who could keep that promise. The week before court, Maya and I built the file like a wall. Brick by brick. Certified deposit history. Probate papers. LLC formation documents filed before the marriage. 12 years of separate tax returns. Mortgage records. Refinance records. The home equity line. Gavin's personal guarantee. All of it public or joint record. Nothing stolen. Nothing sneaky. Nothing hidden. Every page official. Every page stamped. Every page the kind a judge respects. The day before the hearing, Maya let me sit in the empty courtroom for a while. The room was cold. An old radiator clanked and hissed against the wall like it had opinions. The benches were hard. My heart was beating too fast. I sat there and listened to that radiator and made myself breathe. Then Maya told me the real plan. When they ask for the house, she said, don't argue. I stared at her. When they ask for the marital property, let them have it. Sign it over. I must have looked shocked because she smiled. Trust me, she said. The worst thing we can do to these people is let them win exactly what they asked for. That night, Troy made one more move. A settlement offer. He dressed it up like kindness. If I would sign over my interest in the business so it could be divided fairly, they might go easier on spousal support. They might even let me keep the smaller car. A trap with a ribbon on top. Because my company was already protected. The only way it could become marital was if I signed it into the fight myself. They couldn't take it. They needed me to hand it over. At that meeting, Troy slid papers across the table and said it would also help if I gave him my office keys as a gesture of good faith. I reached into my purse by habit. My fingers touched the old brass key. Smooth from 12 years of 6 a.m. mornings. I held it. Then I closed my fist around it and drew my hand back. No, I said. Just that. No speech. No drama. His smile flickered. He hadn't expected the quiet one to refuse. I left the papers and signed and walked out with my key still in my pocket. That was when I knew exactly who was bluffing. Their whole plan depended on me being too tired or too scared to read. They picked the wrong bookkeeper. So I made my choice. And it was the opposite of what everyone expected. I would not fight for the house. I would not fight for the cars. I would not fight for the furniture. I would let them take every shining piece of marital property they wanted. What I would not do was sign away my company. What I would not do was let anyone touch my father's inheritance. And what I would not do was lose my children. That was my line. Maya agreed. Strategy disguised as surrender, she called it. My mother had said it first. I just hadn't understood her yet. The night before the hearing, I sat at my mother's kitchen table with the green ledger open in front of me. Separate. Traceable. My whole defense in 2 words written by a dead man who had been burned once and swore his daughter never would be. I didn't sleep much. At 3 in the morning, I got up, walked into the kitchen, and opened that ledger again. Then I touched the brass key on my ring. I thought about Lily asking if we'd live in a car. I thought about Ben's bike by the front steps. I thought about the promise I had made. By sunrise, I was still afraid. But I was ready too. I wasn't going into court to be louder than the Holloways. I wasn't going to outshout them. I was going in quiet, right, and prepared. All I had to do was keep my hands steady and my voice low. The hallway outside the courtroom smelled like floor wax and cold coffee. The Holloways were already there. Not nervous. Almost cheerful. Sylvia sat straight in her good coat like she was attending a wedding. Gavin stood with his hands in his pockets looking like a man waiting to collect a prize. Vanessa was there too, somehow bold enough to show up, whispering to Gavin behind her hand. I heard the word curtains again and almost laughed. Troy shuffled papers with the confidence of a man who had not read them closely. I sat on the cold bench and listened to the old radiator clank. My heart was loud. My mother sat beside me. She took my hand. Warm. Dry. Steady. Then she leaned close and whispered the 2 words that stopped me cold. Give everything. That was it. Not lose everything. Not surrender everything. Give everything. Give Gavin, Sylvia, Vanessa, all of them, the exact thing they came to take. And in that moment, I understood. She was not telling me to lose. She was telling me to let them win the thing that would ruin them. The doors opened. The bailiff called the case. I stood. Smoothed my navy dress. And walked in ready to do exactly what my mother said. I gave them everything. That was the first move. And it landed exactly the way Maya said it would. When the judge got to the marital home, Troy stood up ready for battle. Maya rose first and said, in the calmest voice I have ever heard, that my client did not contest the marital home and would sign over her interest entirely. Troy stopped mid-sentence. He looked confused. Gavin looked at Sylvia. Sylvia's mouth almost smiled. Then we went down the list. Cars. His. Furniture. His. Appliances. His. Contents of the house. His. Savings account, thin as it was. His. One by one, every bright, visible thing they had spent months fighting to grab, I signed away with a steady hand. And the more I signed, the happier they looked. Sylvia actually squeezed Gavin's arm. Vanessa sat straighter in the gallery. They thought I was beaten. Thought I had cracked. Thought the cold wife they had described to half the town had finally broken down under pressure. I let them believe it. My eyes stayed down. My pen kept moving. Defeated women don't scare people. Prepared ones do. The only thing I did not give up was the company. When Troy tried to slide it into the settlement, Maya laid the LLC documents on the table. Filed before the marriage. Certified. Clean. The judge looked once and moved on. There was nothing to fight there. I kept one hand in my lap the whole time. Wrapped around the brass office key. They could take the house they could see. They could not take the thing I built. And then they signed. That mattered. They signed before the appraisal was discussed. They signed before the debt figures were read. They signed while smiling. That was the whole point. Then Maya stood to address the financial record. And the room changed. She spoke quietly. Almost gently. First, she entered the certified bank history for my inheritance account. 5 years of records. Every dollar traceable to my father's estate. Not one deposit from marital funds. Not one transfer out to household use. Under Ohio law, she said, separate property kept separate and traceable remains separate. The judge looked through the pages. Nodded once. Inheritance, mine. Untouchable. Then the company. Single member LLC. Created before marriage. 12 years of separate books. Separate taxes. Separate ownership. Mine. Troy shifted in his seat. Then Maya turned to the house. The one they had just taken with both hands. She entered the refinance paperwork. The home equity line Gavin drained months before filing. The current appraisal. The payoff amount. The room got very still as the numbers were read aloud. The equity was gone. Not reduced. Gone. Then came the last document. The one that broke them. Gavin's personal guarantee on the business loan funding the property flipping deal with Vanessa. Secured by him. Tied to the debt. Tied to the house. Maya set the paper down and folded her hands. Your Honor, she said, my client has agreed that Mr. Holloway may keep the marital home and all associated obligations. We have no objection. Silence. Real silence. The kind that falls so hard it feels physical. Troy grabbed the appraisal. Read it. Then read it again. His face changed first. Then Gavin leaned over, looked down, and I watched the color drain from him. That was the moment he understood. The house he fought for was an anchor. The debt he tried to hide was now his. His signature. His liability. His future. He had won every single thing he asked for. And every bit of it would sink him. I sat with my hands folded. I never spoke. I didn't need to. My mother's 2 words had done the work for me. Give everything. They had taken it gladly. On record. Before they read what came with it. The judge looked over his glasses. Then Sylvia exploded. I had never seen that woman lose control. Not once. But right there in court, all that church kitchen sweetness vanished. She stood up so fast her chair scraped. She turned on Troy first. How did you miss this? What am I paying you for? He started stammering about disclosures and timelines and valuation dates. Then she turned on Gavin. Her own son. And what she said to him was uglier than anything she had ever said about me. Because this time she was angry enough to tell the truth. She called him careless. Weak. Said he let that woman lead him around by the nose. Said he had buried himself and dragged the family name with him. Gavin spun toward the gallery, looking for Vanessa. Looking for help. Looking for someone else to blame. Vanessa was already on her feet. Already moving toward the door. Face shut tight. The judge banged his gavel. The bailiff stepped forward. And the whole Holloway side of the room turned into the exact public scene Sylvia had spent 2 months claiming I would create. I stayed still. I didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Didn't raise my voice. There was nothing I could say that would beat stamped paper. When the room finally calmed down, the judge moved to custody. The guardian ad litem's report was plain. One parent had kept the children's lives stable. Same school. Same home routine. Same meals. Same care. The other had offered gifts, big promises, and spent the last months drifting in and out with a woman the children barely knew. Primary custody went to me. Clear. Direct. Standard visitation for Gavin. My whole chest loosened. Not loudly. Quietly. Like a knot finally slipping free. Lily and Ben were safe. I had kept the part that mattered most. And the strangest thing of all? I had said almost nothing in that courtroom. Everything important had already been said years before in a green ledger. In my father's careful handwriting. Outside, I saw the ending of Vanessa's part through the courthouse window. She stopped Gavin in the lot. He said something. Maybe begged. Maybe blamed. I don't know. She did not stay long enough for it to matter. A man tied to a debt he couldn't pay was no use to her. She had spent enough years learning the difference between real security and the look of it. Now she saw Gavin clearly. 30 seconds later, she was in her car and gone. Then Sylvia found me in the hallway. Composure half rebuilt. Voice trying to sound reasonable again. She asked if maybe we could revisit some of the arrangement. Maybe talk family to family. Maybe work out something about the house and its troubles. I looked at her. This woman who had told half the town I'd be lucky to keep my maiden name. I closed my hand around the brass office key in my pocket. And for the first time in months, I felt completely calm. No, Sylvia, I said gently. I'm keeping what I built. You can keep what you fought for. Then I picked up my folder, took my mother's arm, and walked away while the radiator clanked behind us like applause. My mother waited with me on the courthouse steps in that thin gold afternoon light. We didn't cheer. We didn't cry. That wasn't us. She just looked at me. I looked at her. And she gave one small nod. I thought about my father. About the handshake that once cleaned him out. About the ledger he kept after that like a prayer. About the wall he built for me years before I knew I would need shelter. Behind us, I could still hear the Holloways arguing through the courthouse doors. Ahead of me, 2 children were waiting at my mother's house. A lamp left on in the hall. I stepped down one stair. Then another.